In our couch, we have what's called a center console, right? You could put books in there, you could put pens in there, you could put napkins in there. Me and my grandkids, we prefer snacks and candy. That's where we keep our stash at, right? But in there, we also has two cables that we come out. I sit on this side, my wife sit on that side. So we got cables that come out. And normally at night, we will plug our work phones or we attach our work phones to this particular cable. Only to find out on multiple occasions when we wake up in the morning and go get our phones are dead. It was then that we realized that the phone was attached, but it wasn't. Come on, you got it. Everybody say attached, but not plugged in. Have you ever plugged in or attached your phone and thought it was plugged in and realized? Everybody say attached, but not plugged in. For 22 years of my life, I told y'all I struggled with crack cocaine and heroin. For a lot of those years, I lived in the house with my mother and my father, right? While I was still struggling with drugs, my mother and my father was attached and plugged into God. But the Holy Spirit showed me, by default, that only made me attached to God. But my life didn't change. My life changed when man. Somebody, you better give God the glory, man. Somebody say attached, but not plugged in. By default of me being in the house with my parents attached and plugged in. But my life was not changing. My life started to change when one day, I was in my parents' home. By default, it made me attached to God. But I was in the back room one day, and I was messing around with my mom and dad's CDs. So I'm putting the CDs in. I'm in the room. I'm struggling with drugs. I'm in the room, and I start praising and worshiping God. I'm listening to this music and stuff. I'm in the room praising and worshiping God. An unknown tongue start coming out my mouth. So I don't know what it is, so I turned the music off. So I'm like, man, I don't even know what that's about, but I don't know what it is, so I stopped the music. Somebody said attached, but not plugged in. So I go out my room, my mother's right there. My father was sitting on the couch, and he had his hands raised to the sky. He was crying and speaking in the Spirit. And it wasn't until recently that the Holy Spirit asked me, he said, son, do you know why your father was crying and praising me that day? And I said, Holy Spirit, I do not. He said, son, when your father heard you in there praising and worshiping me, he knew you went from being attached to me to being, good God Almighty, man, he's worthy to be praised. He heard me, so he says, my son has went from being attached to God to being plugged into God. Somebody say attached, but not plugged in.